Hello everyone, WolfieCast here, back with another Hero Basics video, where I take a hero from Gigantic and tell you what their abilities do, without any upgrades, without any talents, just as the hero comes jumping right into the game. This time we have Ezren Ghal, or just Ezren. Most prefer just Ezren because it's a little easier to say. But he is a caster type hero, ranged damage dealer, with kind of this unique mechanic of this ammunition of souls that he kind of harvests with his LMB, most often with his LMB, but there are other abilities that can also grant him souls with upgrades. But Ezren Ghal has 1,750 health and 15 armor, so kind of a little bit stronger in terms of health as with some of the other members of the cast, but let's just get into his abilities. Let's start with his left mouse button, which is called Soul Caliber. A Soul Caliber shoots out a kind of this skill shot attack, very fast moving projectile that hits the first enemy, deals a bit of damage, and you also gain a soul as it comes back to you. When you retrieve the soul, you also regain health, and you hold a charge of 1 soul. Those souls can be charged up to a maximum of 3, so you can hold 3 souls at once. And if you don't use a soul, the soul will just be lost within a certain time frame of 5 seconds. So throw this out. It's a very fast projectile, so it's pretty hard to miss unless like they just very quickly move from one end to the other. Like if you're on the leftmost corner of the person and they slightly move right, like there's a chance it'll miss, but pretty fast, pretty difficult to dodge, but it does a bit of damage, and you can see as it flies back, I gain the soul. So does damage. That little blue energy ball comes flying back towards me, and then Ezren actually puts it in his lamp, which I think it's a neat little touch, way to notice how many souls that he currently has. So if I throw it out, do 2, do 3, you see I have 3 little spinning orbs around my lamp that lets you know I have 3 charges. You can also see a little tick counter kind of near the center of your screen, slightly to the bottom right of your targeting reticle. And you'll notice if I keep attacking, I'm not gaining more souls. And what this doesn't mean that you don't get healed. It actually, you do still get healed if you're missing health, but you don't gain more than 3 souls at once. So if I move over here, I start getting attacked by this Motiga, take a bit of damage. Gonna go down a little bit just to show you, but if I start harvesting souls, you see I'm getting 50 health, 50 health, 50 health, 50 health, like every time, and I'm back to full health. Even though I already had 3 souls, like part of the way through that, I'm still gaining the health back. So it's good to know that you still regenerate health if you hit, even if you already have full souls. The LMB also has a pretty medium-sized range. Like from here, I'm still hitting. If I go back here, about this distance, you can tell that I'm not quite hitting. I do think this is a super cool attack animation, just for the record, like this ghostly hand that tries to grasp. But about there is when you can start hitting, and if obviously closer, if you're closer, then you can hit. But pretty medium ranged attack. We're gonna move right on to his right mouse button, which is called Soulfire. It turns a captured soul into a projectile that deals damage on impact, and it can only be used if you have souls. So right now I'm tapping my right mouse button. You might be able to hear my mouse in the recording, and nothing's happening as I'm tapping right. But if I grab a soul first, and then I hit right mouse button, it fires this much larger projectile that does damage on impact. So pretty significant. And if you hold 3 souls and you just throw all 3 at once, they will just lob. Like if I held down the button, what I just did is hold down the button and it launched all 3 kind of consecutively. It's important to know that it's a pretty big area. It's pretty forgiving in terms of like destruction there. Like that one missed, so it's not too big of an AoE, but that's considered a hit, and it did full damage to him. A little fun efficiency resource management lesson here for you. If you actually time it correctly, you can launch more than just 3 of your soul fires while a soul is in trajectory. So what that means, I'll show you. It's probably easier just to watch. But if I attack 3 times, you know, I'm already holding 3 souls, and then normally I just launch 3 missiles if I hold it down. But if I attack a 4th time and then begin launching my souls while that 4th soul is flying towards me, I have an open space in my lamp to fire that 4th soul, and then you can fire 4 at once. So watch. I do 3, and then I do a 4th attack, and I immediately do my right mouse button. You see I launched 4 there because I got rid of one of the souls that I was holding to make space for that 4th one. And does a lot more damage. It's also important to know that your right mouse button doesn't actually technically have a cooldown whatsoever. It's entirely reliant on having ammunition for the soul fire with your soul that you gather on your left mouse button. But moving on to his Q, which is called Spectral Form. You gain an aura of death for 4 seconds, and you deal damage over time, 50 damage per tick, to enemies that are within close range of you. And you also gain damage reduction and the ability to walk through enemies. So this is what this looks like. If you walk forward and I get about this distance, hit my Q, I turn this ghostly glow energy and I just do damage over time to Gnosis as I'm nearby. And this is it's actually a good duration. It can be interrupted because it's technically channeled, and you cannot cancel it early, as far as I'm aware. I've tried before. I don't know. Maybe it's just an offline mode, practice mode thing. But I'm hitting Q. I'm hitting Q again. It's not canceling. Another thing with the ability, it does say that you can walk through people. So I will show that here. If I run up to Gnosis here, you know, I kind of have to force myself through him by either kind of sliding or eventually, like, I'll get around. But if I hit Q, just walk through him. You can also sprint while using this move, which I think is super cool. It's not often that you can use an ability in the game and also sprint at the same time. I believe only Taito might be the other person that can do that. There might be one other that I'm kind of not thinking of in this immediate moment. But I think that's a pretty cool addition. So you can just go full speed, kind of give a couple taps, move away. But the important aspect about the ability is the damage reduction, obviously. It's definitely to save your own skin more than anything. And finally, Ezren's last basic ability is called Well of Souls. It creates a death pool in the target area, and after a delay, it deals damage and immobilizes enemies for 0.5 seconds. The tooltip says that it interrupts. It does not actually interrupt. It doesn't apply the interrupted condition. The only thing that it would actually interrupt is if someone was in the middle of like a mobility ability, but it doesn't actually do an interrupt. So you can't interrupt like orb capture. You can't interrupt an ability being used like a normal basic attack. It doesn't do that. But to show the ability, it's pretty similar targeting size to Charnock's Hot Hail, but short delay, bursts, deals damage. You can see the immobilized condition dealt to Gnosis, and then a 20-second cooldown. So this is something that has pretty good impact. It does damage, good damage, but it's pretty hard to actually land. I also just now noticed it's one of the only ability like skill descriptions that doesn't show how much damage it does. Let me see. It does 170. Yeah, after damage reduction from armor, it's probably somewhere around 190, maybe a little higher. It's very interesting. I've never noticed that till just now, but that's what his E does. Lastly, Ezren's focus is called Soul Blast. Ezren begins to float off of the ground. It begins stealing souls out of everyone that is nearby. Small intervals, it deals a small amount of damage per second. It also heals in an area, and then after 2 seconds of casting, it does a burst of damage in an area of effect. With every focus point, it increases the speed of the self-healing. Not necessarily the damage, but it heals you faster more often, so you gain more healing with higher ranks. And then the explosion after, at the end of the cast, does more damage per rank, starting at 400, and then 600, and then 800. So I go over here, I hit F, I float, and I can move around while I'm casting this, but you can see all those souls are being cast, and then at the all those souls are being stolen, and at the end of the cast, you deal a large radius burst of damage to everyone that's nearby. So this is a very high, this is best known for its like self-sustain, It does do like a fair amount of damage. Probably somewhere around like the 600 range, combined with all of the damage ticks and the burst after. But the most significant thing about it is that you gain 50 health per enemy that you're stealing a soul from. So this will save you from, you know, being at around 100 health and very rapidly get you back to full health, or, you know, dancing between full and mid health if enemies are hitting you. It's a very big flashy ultimate, but it's definitely very selfish. Like, the damage is okay, but the biggest thing about it is the self-sustain of it. But that is Ezren's kit. You can see that he's got a lot of capacity to stick in fights as long as possible, with a lot of self-healing, a bit of mitigation with his Q, and the ability to, you know, move faster, deal damage to anyone that's nearby, and then also escape from enemy clutches. A bit of lockdown with his E, and then just the constant damage between switching between hitting left mouse button with souls and then firing soul fire, and then you go back to left mouse button, then you fire souls, you do right mouse button, you fire souls. You know, it's just a lot of back and forth with LMB, RMB, and then using your Q and E when you need them. So if you enjoyed watching, thank you for watching, first of all. Please make sure to share this video, and of course like it. Be on the lookout for future installments of Hero Basics, as well as a deep dive into Ezren. But for now, thank you for watching. Have a good day, and I will see you in the next one.